That was beautiful. I'm told there were two hunters up in Canada walking along a small dirt road talking. They've been friends for a few years, and they're talking about life and things, and they look up ahead about 400 or 500 yards, and they see a bear. And the bear spots them and immediately begins to charge. And one friend just sits down on the side of the road, and he begins pulling off his boots. And the friend said, "What are you doing? You can't outrun that bear. Let's go." And he said, "Yes, but I can outrun you." I think the friend needed to do a study on what friendship really is and what it may be about. Now, there's so much in this text, we could spend a month of Sundays unpacking the various nuances of the text. I'm only going to spend about an hour and a half today. What does it mean to abide in my love? We know what abide means, but what does it mean to abide in Jesus' love? What does it mean to have joy completed? What does that mean? What does it mean to bear fruit? What kind of fruit? What does it mean to bear? And how do these commandments help a disciple to actually love? I mean, can you really tell somebody to love and them do it? Now, at the very apex of this text are two words: love and friend. And Jesus, in a beautiful way, takes those two words and brings them together. He merges love and friendship into one kind of character or one kind of relationship. The text doesn't deal with when. It doesn't deal with where. It deals with the who and the what and the why. And it also deals with the how much. Now, Jesus associates that love in this text to the relationship shared between best friends. Not just friends, but shared between best friends. Now, there are 6 Greek words, as you've heard preachers talk about. There are 6 great Greek words for love. Jesus is using the word philia. And it's not just brotherly love like Philadelphia, but philia. It's a love that is birthed in relationship. And it's a relationship that is taking place in some high tense moment or some experience of life, either ultimate joy or ultimate pain. It's something that just bonds people together, similar to 2 soldiers on the battlefield. And they've been through this skirmish, they've been through this battle, and they begin to feel like best friends. And they become so close because of what they've been through, what they have gone through, that they are ultimately willing to lay down their life for their friends. That's why we read about this soldier jumping on this hand grenade to save this life. This soldier thought less of his life and more of the lives of his comrades. This love is different than the love a parent has for a child or the love a child has for a parent even. That relationship that kind of love is developed on relationship. It's automatic. I mean, you suffer for 9 months with acid reflux and getting your ribs kicked, and eventually on the 9th month you give painful birth to a child, and instantaneously there's love. Right? Instantaneously motherhood is produced, it's birthed, and a child is birthed. And in that relationship there's automatic love, regardless of how much acid reflux you had. It's natural. Now, the love that Jesus is talking about is not that kind of love. There's authority in parental love. A parent is responsible for a child's spiritual and moral and ethical well-being and growth. And I think many parents today may have gotten that a little skewed. It seems to me, at least, that some parents think that they should be their child's best friend. And your child doesn't need a parent being a best friend. A child needs a parent being a parent. A parent is responsible for moral, spiritual growth. And there's responsibility there for that child's well-being. But true friends are birthed too. They're birthed differently. The birth is something painful or something joyous, but it's birthed nevertheless. It's birthed through experience. Now, I was sadly amused by the story of a young girl who was asked how many friends she had. And she said, "Oh, I've got 881. Of course, what she meant was Facebook friends. She has no idea of true friendship. No more than a child who's only played football and baseball on Xbox understands sports. And I wonder how many Facebook friends would lay down their life for her. There may be one or two, but they were best friends before they ever got on Facebook. I wonder how many of these 881 she would be willing to lay down her life for. My guess is that the real friendships in that 881 were there long before Facebook came around. Now, I've been lucky on this friendship side. I've had many friends. There's Monty Keith. He and I learned how to swim. There's Billy Black that shared many hours with me riding our Schwinn bicycles to mysterious places like the landfill. You know, you can really find some neat stuff as an 11-year-old at a landfill. Now, my mother's horror was I drugged some of that mysterious, neat stuff back home with me, but we learned those mysterious places riding our bikes. And then there was Donnie Martin, who would camp out with me way back in the woods on the weekend, and he'd stay awake all night because he was afraid of the dark. There's Dubo Fowler, who would walk with me back home from football practice, and we would talk about girls and things in general and the world's issues. Now, as a United Methodist minister, I know I'm only a temporary ornament on a church porch. Sort of like the king is dead and long live the king. You know, when we arrive at a church, we arrive with an ending. I will leave and somebody will replace me. And 10 years from now, someone here will say, 10 years from the time I leave, someone will say, "Now, who was that big old ugly preacher with the beard? You know, he was talking about friends on Mother's Day. What was his name?" That's the nature of it. However, sometimes as we pass through churches, friendships develop. And that's especially hard because as United Methodist pastors, we're asked to let go of those friends. There comes a time when we are asked to let go. And churches must let go of us, even though there has been a friendship there. And folks, I have hurt feelings over time when, you know, I would leave a church and then I wouldn't go back to do this or that, a funeral, a wedding, a baptism. And they asked why. And I would try to explain that. Now, over time, they came to appreciate it and understand why. But I've been blessed in so many, many ways with friends. Friends I'll always remember, that will always reside in my heart and in my mind. Many of which who sat in the pew like you are this morning, sat in the pew in front of me and listened to various quality of sermons. However, there are only a few who I would consider in the friendship category that Jesus is talking about in this text. My first best friend was my wife Gail, who has seen me at my best, and of course she has also seen me at my most miserable worst. We got married far too young, but somehow she made it work for 42 years. And I hope that each of you, that your spouse becomes your best friend eventually, if not now, but eventually. There have been a precious few others. There are two who are United Methodist ministers. One I went to school with. We met when we were 15 years old. We went to school. We played football together, baseball. We ran track and basketball. And then we ended up going to Wofford College together. The only difference there, he wanted to study religion. I wanted to study humanities. And then we ended up in seminary together. And then we ended up being ordained ministers at the same time. So we've been around together a lot of years. And he knows more about me than Gail knows about me, believe that or not. And then there's another minister that he was my district superintendent, and I can't say he was my friend when he was a DS, but we became friends afterward. After he came out of that position, then we became friends. And he didn't make my path easy. He believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. He cast a vision for me that I couldn't see by myself. And he gave me directions and instruction along the way that I wouldn't have come up on my own. And he's still there. He's still there giving me advice when I seek it out. And he's never been one to tell me what I wanted to hear. He's always been one to tell me what I needed to hear. He's never been one to tell me to follow that direction because that's the way I wanted to go, but he would give me advice on the right direction. And when I think about these friends, I want to say something to them. I want to thank them for opening themselves up to me, for sharing trust with me, thoughts and disappointments and dreams, and for depending on me and allowing me to depend on them and being there when I never asked. They just seemed to know when I was broken, battered, and tattered and needed something. They just showed up. Thank you for always being honest with me and being kind to me, even when kindness in me was starting to run out. Thank you for being a friend to me in so many meaningful ways. For those friends especially close, thank you for making me so important in your life that you were willing to risk yourself for my benefit. A true friend, you see, a true friend, a best friend, is ready to give all for you, and you're ready to give all for them. I remember a story about 1941. It's Auschwitz, Poland. And there was a Franciscan priest by the name of Maximilian Kolbe who began hiding Jews from the Nazis. And as he hid them in in rooms and under the floorboards and in the attic, he learned them and he became friends with them. He knew their children's names. He knew where they came from. He knew their hopes and their dreams. Well, Father Kolbe was discovered, and he was arrested with the Jews in his house and sent to a concentration camp. And there was a rule in this camp that if someone tried to escape, that 10 people would be extracted from the group and put into an independent building and allowed to starve to death. Someone tried to escape. And one of the Nazi sergeants was counting the 10 that were going to get to go and starve to death. And he got to Frandiska Gasanovich. And Gasanovich screamed out, "Wait, I have a wife, I have children." And Father Kolbe stepped forward and said, "I'll take his place." Sergeant didn't care. He's got his 10. And he took Father Kolbe and the other 9 to the death house to starve to death. Now, this was all chronicled in an NBC News special several years ago, and Gasanovich was 82 years old when they did the story, so he's a lot older than that now if he's still living. And at the end of the show, they showed Gasanovich going behind his house where he had set up a monument. And on that monument it read, "I live because someone died for me. He died in my place." He died in my place. And every year, Gasanovich goes to Auschwitz on August the 14th, the day that his father Kobe died, to remember the gift that priest, a Protestant priest, had given him. Now, Margot, is Margot still here? Margot told me a story. Her love of life was in the military. He was 34, 35 years old, fighting in Southeast Asia, Special Forces. He had 2 weeks to go. 2 weeks. And a special mission came down the pike. It was a dangerous mission. Volunteers were asked for. James Luttrell stepped forward with only 2 weeks to go. And he stepped into history, never to be seen again. Why? Why? Why would he do that? 2 weeks to go. Why? Because those were friends around him. And being a professional soldier, he believed, number one, he could do it better than they could. And number two, their lives were more important than his. And he was willing to give his life for them. Every year, young men and women put on uniform of this country and stand watch on a wall. They wear your uniform. They wear my uniform. They do it because they love the country, and they're willing to die for us. They are our friends. I'm also reminded of a story. In his first season with the Brooklyn Dodgers, Jackie Robinson, the first black man to play Major League Sports, baseball, he faced venom everywhere he went, signs in the outfield, and fastballs towards the head, and sharpened spikes on the bases, and sneers and jeers from the crowd, from dugouts. And one day it was especially bad, and I forget where they were playing, but and he was playing for the Dodgers. And one day it was really, really bad, and Pee Wee Reese was hearing all this. Now, Pee Wee Reese was from Kentucky. He was a Southern boy. And Pee Wee had befriended him earlier. And Jackie and he had become friends in the dugout. And Pee Wee heard all the ridicule and the racism coming from various parts of that stadium. And Pee Wee walked off second base and went out into the outfield and put his arm around Jackie Robinson like this. And he was saying, "This is my friend. This is my friend." Now, he put his career on the line. He put his career in front of all that racism and bigotry because Jackie Robinson was important to him as a friend. Real friends do that for one another. They'll reach down into the cesspool of humanity and take you by the hand and not worry about all the stench, not worry about the refuse. They'll get you by the hand and pull you up regardless. Regardless. They will simply do it because you are their friend. They'll stand beside you when everyone else runs for cover. They will speak for you when you find it too hard to even cry. That's best friends. And among the precious titles that are in the New Testament, Jesus gives the followers, his followers, the title friend. Friend. And I think when you unpack what Jesus thinks is a friend, it's what we just talked about. Being willing to give it all for someone else. And our relationship with Jesus is experiential. As we live our lives out together with Jesus, we become closer and closer and closer, and we say, yes, Jesus is my friend. Those disciples had been with him for years. They had seen heard the teachings. They saw the miracles. They were there as students. But now Jesus transforms that relationship, not from teacher to student, but now it's being transformed into a friendship relationship. No longer disciples, but friends. Now, they didn't know what all of that meant. They had no clue as to what friendship was. How do I know that? How many of them were at the foot of the cross when Jesus was crucified? One. John. Only John. The others didn't understand what friendship was like or what it was. How does that old hymn go? What a friend we have in Jesus, all our sins and griefs to bear. What a privilege to carry everything to God in prayer. Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear, all because we do not carry everything to God in prayer. Have we trials and temptations? Is there trouble anywhere? We should never be discouraged. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Can we find a friend so faithful who will all our sorrows share? Jesus knows our very weakness. Take it to the Lord in prayer. The writer of that hymn knew Jesus was our friend, or is our friend, in the sense of deepest friend, in the sense of best friend. And I think we know that too. But friendship is reciprocal. We can't just take. We have to also give. Friendship is reciprocal. If there's only a taker in the two, then it's not a real friendship, is it? No, it's a give and a take. It's a take and a give. So, the only real question for us today is, are we a friend of Jesus? Are we friends of Jesus? Jesus said, "You are my friends if you do what I command you." Amen.